In the 1930s, the storm clouds of war once again gathered over Europe. The French Navy, still bruised from the trauma of the Great War, was under pressure. Across the Mediterranean, Italy was arming fast. And to the north, a new, rearmed Germany was building Kriegsmarine dreams out of steel. France needed answers. And in 1936, one of those answers took shape in the port of Saint-Nazaire. Her name was Strasbourg. At first glance, Strasbourg looked like an evolution of the battleship. But in truth, she was something else. The French called her a battleship, but her design told a different story. She was the second and final ship of the Dunkerque-class, a response to the rise of Germany's pocket battleships, fast, commerce-raiding cruisers with unexpectedly heavy guns. Strasbourg was built not to slug it out in a line of battle formation, but to chase down and kill raiders. She was built to hunt. Armed with 8 330mm guns, mounted in 2 quadruple turrets forward, her firepower was formidable, but unconventional. Her armor was strong for her size, but it couldn't compete with the giants of the sea like the Bismarck or the King George V. Still, she had one great strength: speed. At full power, Strasbourg could reach 30 knots, fast enough to run with cruisers or flee from heavier ships. She was commissioned in September 1938, just a year before the world fell into chaos once more. As World War II broke out in 1939, Strasbourg and her sister ship, Dunkirk, were among the few modern capital ships France could count on. They joined Forster Raid, the main French fast squadron, based at Mers-el-Kébir in Algeria, ready to intercept German raiders. But the Atlantic stayed quiet. The Kriegsmarine surface fleet held back. And so Strasbourg patrolled, waiting, watching, a saber drawn but never used. Then, in June 1940, everything changed. France had fallen. In just 6 weeks, German tanks rolled through Paris. The French government signed an armistice, and the once proud French Navy, one of the largest in the world, was suddenly adrift. Would they join the Germans? Or would they sail for Britain? No one knew, but the British feared the worst. To Winston Churchill, the very idea of the French fleet falling into Axis hands was unthinkable. The Royal Navy couldn't take that risk. And so, on July 3, 1940, they launched Operation Catapult, a brutal, preemptive strike on their former allies. The main target was Mers-el-Kébir. Strasbourg was moored there, alongside Dunkirk and several other French warships. The British ultimatum was clear: join us, sail to neutral ports, or be destroyed. The French, outraged and torn, refused all. What followed was one of the most tragic moments in naval history. Just before 6 p.m., British battleships opened fire. HMS Hood, Valiant, Resolution, and Ark Royal unleashed hell. Dunkirk was struck and crippled almost immediately. The harbor became a cauldron of fire, smoke, and shock. French sailors scrambled to return fire, chaos reigned. But Strasbourg was ready. Captain Louis Collinet had been watching events unfold with grim suspicions. Engines were hot, crews were at their posts. And when the first shells fell, Strasbourg did the unthinkable: she simply ran. Through a storm of British shellfire and dodging mines laid at the harbor entrance, Strasbourg made her daring escape. With destroyers following her lead, she surged ahead at full speed, through the smoke, through the shock, into open sea. British planes chased, and torpedoes followed. But Strasbourg slipped away, her hull untouched. By nightfall, she was steaming toward Toulon. She was the only major ship at Mers-el-Kébir to escape destruction that day. But the price was high: over 1,200 French sailors were killed in the harbor. Strasbourg arrived in Toulon not as a hero, but as a survivor, carrying the bitter weight of great betrayal. From that day forward, she would be a ship trapped in limbo, haunted by the war, by politics, and by a question that would never truly be answered. Was she a symbol of French defiance, or a ghost of a lost cause? After her narrow escape from the guns of the Royal Navy at Mers-el-Kébir, Strasbourg returned to Toulon, scarred, not by steel, but by the bitterness of civil war between allies. The ship that had once been built to hunt raiders was now chained to a dock, caught between shifting loyalties and an uncertain future. Strasbourg became a flagship again, at least on paper, leading what remained of France's high seas fleet in the south. But in reality, she was a prisoner of diplomacy and distrust. By 1942, the situation had only grown worse. Germany had overrun Vichy-controlled France's free zone in November, following the Allied landings in North Africa. The Nazis, no longer content to let the French Navy sit idle, began to move toward Toulon with one objective: seize the fleet. The order was clear. Hitler wanted the capital ships intact. But so did the French Admiral Jean de Laborde, for a very different reason. On the morning of November 27, 1942, as German tanks rolled toward the naval base gates, the French fleet, lined up and silent in the harbor, received its final command: scuttle the ships. Burn everything. Let the enemy take nothing. Strasbourg was at the center of it all. Her crew had planned for this day. Charges were already planted. Sea valves had been prepared. As the Germans stormed the port and raced to capture the docks, French sailors moved fast, lighting fuses, smashing engines, and opening seacocks. Flames erupted across the harbor. Oil fires blackened the sky. Ammunition detonated below deck. The mighty French fleet, once the pride of Europe, was being destroyed by its own hand. On board Strasbourg, the Scuttling was ruthless. Her engines were wrecked, turrets disabled, explosives detonated deep in her hull. As the water poured in, she slowly settled to the bottom of the harbor, her tricolour insignia torn between defiance and defeat. She sank upright, still visible, a ghostly silhouette among the smoke. In all, over 70 ships were scuttled that morning at Toulon. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers, gone in hours. It was the largest self-inflicted naval destruction in history. The Germans arrived just minutes too late. Strasbourg was now theirs. But broken, burning, and useless. Over the next year, they tried to salvage her. But Strasbourg never fought again. She was too far gone. In 1944, as the Allies returned to southern France during Operation Dragoon, Strasbourg was bombed again in port, to ensure she would never be used by the Axis. This time, there would be no escape. After the war, the once proud hull of Strasbourg was raised, one final time. Not for glory, not for resurrection, but for scrap. She was broken up in 1955, her steel melted down, her legacy left behind in rust and memory. But Strasbourg's story didn't end with her destruction. She had outrun death at Mers-el-Kébir. She had refused capture at Toulon. And though she never fired a shot in defiance of the Axis, she still denied them her guns. That, in the end, was her last act of service, a final, silent resistance. She was not the strongest ship, nor the most famous. But Strasbourg, like France itself in that dark hour, proved that dignity could endure even in defeat, and that sometimes, the greatest stand is to deny your enemy the victory they seek. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. You can also subscribe and explore our channel for previous Battleship videos. Bye for now and Godspeed.